Welcome to more Fanime. What's up, everybody? Today, I want to have a discussion about the One Piece live action series that recently released last month. I know this video is a long time coming. I attempted to record it a few times. It's just a lot to get out. It's a lot to talk about. First off, if I sound a little off, it's because I'm recovering from the COVID, the virus, the infection. I'm getting over it, as you can tell. I'm feeling a lot better than I did about 3 or 4 days ago. But I figured, why not, while I'm in this isolation, while I'm in this state, why not sit here and talk about the One Piece live action, what it did and what it will continue to do now that the second season has been approved. First off, season 1, easy for me, 8 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10. If I'm going to be a little critical about it, but honestly, fantastic job. You took over 100 chapters, I think, of content, maybe a little less. Maybe 90 chapters worth of content and condensed it down to 8 one-hour episodes. Well, that's some skill. You can tell from the get-go, that from the first episode, that the person who's running this shit is a fan of One Piece. Oh, yeah. Did they have to make some changes? Yes. Did I love every change? No. Was there some changes I did like? Kinda. Sorta. I mean, you can't fit everything into this live action series. It's just impossible. Unless Netflix wants to go bankrupt trying to put this series together, they would essentially have to do 20 one-hour episodes to make that work, in my opinion. To be honest, my first critique would be doing, instead of 8 episodes, they should have done 10. I think if they had 2 more hours to flesh some shit out, it would have gone up for me. There was some points in this series that it felt like we were jumping from island to island without much time in between because they had to get going because they didn't have a lot of time. They didn't. They would go from one scene where they're like, okay, this is the next island we're going to. Let's go to Syrup Village. And then they'd go check on what Kobe's up to. And then they'd be there already in the shipyard looking at ships and shit. And I'm like, whoa. That's quick. That's some quickness. And I get it. They can't take too much time. And I wasn't even sure if they would go all the way through Arlong Park in these 8 episodes, but they do. It does feel cut short, though. And I think the best way to discuss season 1 is to go character by character. So let's start with Luffy. I think the kid that played Luffy, I don't know his name. I think he did a great job. I think the kid that played Luffy exceeded expectations easily. This kid definitely captured the spirit of Luffy, even though he did make some changes, and I'm sure that wasn't his choice. I'm sure it was the script writers and the story tellers that are behind the scenes that tell him what to do. All he could do is bring the spirit of Luffy that he captured from also being a fan. And I think he did that, especially in the early episodes. I did feel like midway through, right around the time, maybe not even midway, a little over midway, once Luffy saw Zoro get his ass handed to him by Mihawk and kind of felt pressured into be like, this is your fault. I felt like Luffy kind of, his character progression was sped up. Something that doesn't happen till after he deals with Enies Lobby, which is like 300 plus chapters out. His character development as a captain and, realizing his actions have consequences. I don't think he realizes that till much later in the series, but it does feel like the show writers here have decided to give Luffy that development now, especially with Zoro getting hurt. But he didn't go back on his word. He was like, I'm not going to stop Zoro from living his dream. If he wants to go fight and die, that's his choice, and I'm not going to interfere. I'll do my best. I mean, maybe I should have sat and thought about it for a minute, but the Luffy we know, he wasn't there yet. He saw Zoro get beat up, and he was ready to go fight fucking Don Krieg. But all in all, I think this Luffy was dope, and I'm glad this kid is Luffy, and I think he's going to develop even more. I mean, he's kind of a newer actor, if I had to guess. I haven't seen him around. I'm sure he's in a few things I might have seen, but I don't recognize him. So it's just a matter of time. He's going to get better. He's going to get wiser. He's going to get older. He's going to get stronger. Imagine if this kid makes it all the way to the time skip and they don't recast the entire cast, because by then they're all going to be like 10 years older if we even get there. Then he's probably going to get ripped for older, 2-year-older Luffy. He's going to change the way his demeanor. He's going to change the way he acts as Luffy, but also keep the same spirit he's already shown us in Season 1. Yes, I like this Luffy. I do. And I hope he continues on for the entirety of the series, no matter how long it might be. But yeah, dope kid. Favorite moments is just him being Luffy, being a goofball, being a little ignorant to his surroundings, and being pretty much singular focus. Like, I'm Luffy, I'm going to be king of the pirates. That's Luffy, for sure, especially in East Blue. That's basically his motive. And building his squad, if you will. Gathering people like Zoro and Nami. First off, let's get into Zoro. I really like this guy. This is, if I had to give a reward for my favorite character in this season, it would be Zoro. Zoro is not my favorite character from the anime. He's in my top 5. Don't get me wrong. But he's not my favorite character. But in Season 1 of the live-action adaptation, this guy took the cake. Best fight scene, hands down, him versus Mihawk. Oh yeah. If you don't want to watch the whole live action, just go watch that, because it's sick. And I'm sure you've seen it somewhere online. It's been posted everywhere. It's so good and as accurate as they can possibly get. And I just applaud them for putting that together. And pretty much anytime the dude was fighting, you can tell they went through some fucking stunt scenes. And from what I read, he did most of his own stunts. I like his back and forth with Sanji, even though their rivalry doesn't really start or kick off until they get to the Grand Line. I'm glad they're just jumping right into it. It's good to have the two badasses already at each other's throats. I love it. They're the best frenemies in here and there, and I would say Zoro is my numero uno out of this cast. He found a way to give us the spirit of Zoro, but also bring a little more gruffness, a little more Batman-y, a little less happy-go-lucky, I guess. He does smile sometimes, and I think after he had his fight with Mihawk, he kind of changed his demeanor just a tidbit. He got a little even more loyal to Luffy pretty quickly, actually. I felt that they cut a lot of his fights, like his fight with Buggy's little henchman dude was kind of cut and really shortened down. They even added some shit though. They had him fight Mr. 7 from Baroque Works. Love that. I love that they're adding things to the story that did happen. We just didn't get to see it. Why not give us, the anime fans who have seen this story told at least 3 to 4 times in manga or anime or whatever have you, and give us some more Easter eggs and shit like that we didn't actually get to see but was told to us. I love that. He cuts a dude in fucking half, carries his dead body to a marine base to get his bounty. Love it. Fucking love it. This guy's great. Kicks ass, takes names, does his fucking job as the first mate, and I adore this kid. Nami, I think Nami kicked ass too. I think she's less scared than she usually is. She's more into it. Like, she was more in the fight. Like, she showed us, she does the walk to Arlong Park with them. She's never running away cowardice-ly like Usopp would. She used to be, she is part of the, the weakling coward trio. And in this, she seems a lot more confident. I think that they're making her more of a contender. She's not necessarily a top fighter, but she can hold her own. She became a big part of the fight with Axan Morgan. They included her in a lot of different spots that she wasn't included in the original anime/manga, and I like the girl. I think she's surprisingly the oldest cast member at 30 years old. My worry is, 10 years from now, when they get to the time skip, she's going to be way too old to play Nami, and they might have to recast her. They might have to recast the entire cast if they make it to the time skip, to be honest with you. And I really like this cast, so that could be the detriment for this series. If they do have to recast the entire cast for the time skip to get everybody to the ages they need to be to make it work, or the looks they need to be looking like for the future, it could be the end. That could be where we call it at the time skip, because I don't know if we can do that, because these guys are pretty fucking close to what I could imagine as a live action version. They're not as goofy and over the top like they were in the anime, and they've toned it down. It does feel like the characters are less strong, if you will. They have less abilities here and now, and I feel like they're going to develop a little bit slower in their fighting abilities. I mean, we got to see Gum Gum Balloon, we got to see Gum Gum Pistol, so it's not like the abilities aren't there. It's just going to take a little longer. Her staff is cool, it's extendable, not like it was before. I think she had like these little pipes she put together in the past, but she's got an extendable staff, something she doesn't get till much later in the series, and I really like that. I think it's pretty cool. It's not the Climate Act yet, but I can't wait to see when that comes next season, in the Alabasta season 2. Oh shit, it's coming, people, and I'm excited for Alabasta. Phoebe, Chopper, oh yeah. Alright, Usopp. Usopp was my most disappointing of the cast, even though he did great. I just think that he wasn't given nearly enough time to develop. He was working for Kaya, which kind of makes sense, on the shipyard, cleaning ships and whatnot, and he does lie like Usopp, and that's kind of his own thing here. He doesn't even get his own little fight with Django. They cut Django completely. They don't even show like a character that dressed up like Django in the background. No. I did read that they want to include Django later on, maybe as a Marine, but it's kind of, why? Might as well just let him go. He's not that important of a character, I get it. They even have Full Body at Baratier, even though he's only there to get kicked by Sanji. He doesn't do much else. But Django doesn't even show up. But they have the two cat brother-sister combo. And they get their ass beat by Zoro alone without Usopp's help, even though in the anime/manga, Zoro and Usopp team up. They work together to take out Django, and that would have been kind of cool to see Usopp in his own arc, in his debut arc, Syrup Village, him actually getting a battle. And I think that if they kept Django in the story, he could have easily been like, I don't know, another butler or some other thing. He could have just showed up on the island ready to commit the atrocities, take over, Akaya's estate and whatnot, and try to hypnotize her. Maybe the showrunners thought the hypnotization was stupid. I don't know. Django would have been a very fun character to see live, using hypnotizing her. He would have been a fun character to see live with his full outfit on, and then Usopp could have gone 1v1 with Django, while Luffy went 1v1 with Kuro, and I think that would have been cool. Usopp does get a little bit more development at the Baratier when he gets drunk and he starts lying about how badass Captain Usopp is, and that was one of my favorite parts for him, just being cool, hiding under tables when Arlong shows up and starts tearing shit apart. I think Usopp was really good. I wish they didn't cut out Usopp Hammer. Come on, he had his one fight in this story, in this version of it, his one real fight other than running away and shooting a couple, rubber band shots. And it was against Chu, the kissing fish guy. And he gets to shoot his alcohol bottle. Instead, it's not even Usopp's alcohol bottle. It would have been better if he threw the alcohol bottle to Chu, grabbed it, and he's like, you know what? Shit's flammable. Boom! Blows him up, and then Chu should have started to get up. Maybe Usopp celebrating, like, I did it! But nobody was here to see it. And then you see Chu start getting up, and then he pulls out his little, workman's hammer, and he's like, Usopp Hammer! Even if it was just once! Even if it was just once, if he just said Usopp Hammer, I would have lost it. But just 3 times would have been perfect. Usopp Hammer, Usopp Hammer, Usopp Hammer, cut. You got it. It wouldn't have took much. I mean, you could have cut something else out for that. Finally, we got Sanji. And I would say this guy, the guy that plays Sanji, I think his name is Taz, he did great. Probably the best shape. He was in great shape, shredded, ripped, ready to rock and roll. He trained to cook in real life. He trained to kickboxing in real life for this role. I think he's the perfect Sanji. I'm sad that they didn't do the curly brows. But I read that the showrunner didn't want it to be distracting. I don't think it would have been distracting. Just to add a little curl. That's all I'm asking for. Just a little curl on the eyebrow. But I get it. You can't always have the hair covering the other eye. So it might have been weird because the curls are, the same direction. But he won me over quickly. Sanji as well, though. Even though he stole the show with every scene he was allowed to be in, he didn't get a lot of scenes, even in his own arc. He kicked the shit out of Full Body, and that was really it. They didn't even develop that scene. They could have even left it out. But I love the part when he realizes Nami is with the crew, and he's kind of treating them all like shit because he's in a bad mood because he got in a fight with Zeph. I feel like... Once he realizes Nami, a beautiful girl, is there, he starts treating her better than everybody else, asks her what kind of ice she wants, crushed, cubed. I can't remember the whole line, but it was hilarious. Shaved, maybe he said. But he was funny as fuck. I think he killed it. I think his backstory was my favorite and most well done out of everybody's. Luffy's was the longest, I believe, but they cut it up, and I think that was a smart move. Out of all the backstories, like I said, I think Sanji's was the closest. I heard he was the kid from Sweet Tooth that played young Sanji. That's kind of cool. Not a big fan of his version of Kid Sanji. I think he should have been a little bit more gruff, a little bit more angry. I don't know. He didn't capture the Sanji I know and love, but he did great. And I think the whole scene with, Chef Zeph eating his leg and all that shit. Oh yeah, 10 out of 10. They did great with Sanji from top to bottom. And his fight, teaming up with Zoro to fight the fisherman at the end, beautiful. 9 out of 10 easily. Those two work well together. You can tell they did the most stunt choreographed shit in the entire group, out of the entire team. And I think they kicked some ace. They cut Hachi out. I don't know why, even though Hachi comes back later. I would have rather them cut Chu or Kurobi, or they should have just cut Kurobi, the fucking manta ray man, and had Hachi be there. Use your budget on him and his CGI octopus arms. And instead of having Sanji and Zoro team up against Kurobi, they have Sanji and Zoro team up with the 6-armed fucking octopus man. And then have Hachi involved in the story. But they kind of cut Arlong Park short. And they cut some other scenes short to include... This isn't the biggest thing I was a fan of, but also not a fan of, because he lost other things in exchange for another. It was a trade. It was a trade-off. Some scenes were removed to give Kobe and Hilnepo. Kobe and Hilnepo, great actors, great performances as those characters, and Garp, same. Loved his acting. Wasn't the Garp I'm used to. I think I got an Irish or Scottish accent and whatnot, and he did his job. It didn't feel like the Garp I know, but I think I'm going to get used to it, and I like how he started to act like Garp by the end once the audience realized he wasn't an actual threat to Luffy. He is Luffy's grandpa. I really... liked Hilnepo, and I think a lot of people will agree. He was great. He was great. He was a shit. He got his hair cut by Zoro. Loved it. You got to see his bare ass as he was playing with Zoro's sword. All that stuff was fun. But I don't mind adding extra scenes of Kobe and Hilnepo training. That would have been fine with Bogart and Garp or whatever. But including them in almost every episode after they separated from Luffy and co, after they took down Axan Morgan. Oh, especially Axan Morgan. Axan Morgan was fine. He looked like Axan Morgan, but he didn't feel like he should have been kicked out of the Marines. Maybe demoted for being a shithead and an egomaniac, but he didn't look like he was, at least in this version. We know that he's a piece of shit that hurts Marines and his own people. But in this version, it just seemed like a hard ass that liked to take advantage of his power. But that was it. It didn't feel like he should have been strung up like he was by Garp. Garp didn't seem like he found real evidence of the dude being a piece of shiz. So if I could go back, I would add some more details to Axan Morgan being a piece of crap and him escaping. They didn't even show him escaping with Hilnepo, and then Hilnepo going, "No, Dad, I'm not going with you. I'm sticking with Garp. I'm sticking with Kobe." They didn't show it, and they added a bunch of extra shit where they showed up at Syrup Village. They saw Zoro. Zoro got lost. Love that. They were trying to capture Luffy, but then they decided to let him go. And then they were there at Arlong Park at the very end. They cut Arlong Park short. They did the scene. Probably my favorite scene was the Nami crying and telling Luffy to leave, but then asking for help. And Luffy's like, of course, let's go. And then the squad is there in the positions ready to rock. They had to cut a lot out of this series, and losing Hachi and losing Django were the two biggies. And the other big one, probably the biggest plight, or the biggest stain on this version, in my opinion, is cutting out Don Krieg. They showed Don Krieg, he's in it, but he gets cut in half by fucking Mihawk. If we had one more episode, we could have included Don Krieg and Gin. I think Gin is in the story as well, but he just shows up to get a free meal from Sanji, and that's it. And I feel like the showrunners asked, they asked our boy Oda, and we're like, is Gin ever going to come back into the story? Is he that important? And I think Oda was like, who? Gin? No, you don't have to include him. And he's like, you know what? Actually, he needs to get the free meal, so we'll include him. But I'm starting to feel like we'll never see Gin again, especially after this, because they are planning for the future. If the story goes, if the live action keeps going into the new world, I think they would have planned Gin as a bigger character if they planned on bringing him back later on, and he was barely in it. He got a free meal. He escaped Mihawk's devastation. Mihawk shows up at the Baratier and all that, but there's no Don Krieg. He was killed. Yeah, Mihawk did it. And that's fine, I guess. I really enjoyed Gin versus Sanji in the anime, and I really enjoyed Luffy overcoming Don Krieg's might and army, and I just wish they included it. Even if it was just Don Krieg and a few foot soldiers, just like 10, maybe 20, not that army he had before, just survivors from the attack. And they could have cut it down, of course. They didn't have to do all of it, and then, I don't know. I think they could have fit it if they wanted to, but instead they decided to have Arlong and his squad, Chu and Kurobi, show up. And they did this crazy Power Rangers jump out of the water and land at the Baratier. They invaded. They had a little duel with Sanji and Luffy, and Usopp was running around hiding. This is after our boy Zoro was knocked out by Mihawk. They had Zoro out for a while, which is fine. You know, that was some devastation. Another big scene they cut that I think is a big mistake was Zoro fighting Arlong. They should have included a scene of Zoro attempting to fight Arlong, throwing his blade at Arlong's nose, and his nose being so tough that it blocks it. I think it would have been dope. And then Arlong grabs an injured Zoro with his wound opening up again. And he's like, remember this in the manga? Come on. Okay, he's holding him up, and he's like, who are you? You have a life-threatening wound right here. Like, how are you here? How are you breathing? I need to kill this one now, because he's going to be a problem if we don't. Because we all think that, and I hope you agree, that Zoro probably could have taken down Arlong if he was healthy. But he wasn't, and he needed Sanji's help. It's not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker. Again, 8 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10, solid. The guy who played Arlong, great. Wish he was a little bigger, of course, because Arlong is supposed to be like maybe not 2 times. He's supposed to be a head and shoulders above Luffy in height, at least. And he was kind of almost the same height. He was a little taller, but it didn't seem like Arlong size. But I think the guy who played him killed it. And they had the shark tooth fucking blade. It was sick as all heck. I think that all the villains were dope. Every one of them, they all looked like the villains. I think the only one that was kind of campy, and maybe it's just because that's who his character is, but I thought he did great playing the Black Cat fucking Kuro. Kuro killed it. Kuro, he had the look, he had the vibe, he pushed the glasses up with the arm, killed it. Oh, yes. Like I said, the only one that really bugged me was the development for Axe-Hand Morgan. It just didn't feel like he deserved to be kicked out of the Marines for the stuff we saw him do. I think that Alvida was great. Buggy, I didn't even talk about Buggy. Buggy, fucking best villain. I would say Buggy, then Arlong in the live-action version. Even though Arlong is one of my top 2 favorite villains in the entire series, I think Buggy was the best of them. He was way more sadistic. He had everybody in the village, was it Orangetown, all tied up, and I thought that was sick. The Mary looked good. I didn't like that the Going Mary had its mouth open all the time. Like, it's like when they fall out of Skypiea. But we'll cut this video down here in a second. I don't want to make this too long. We've already been going on for 24 minutes. But the next season's coming. And if they're smart, they'll start busting these out just like Lord of the Rings. They should, season by season, they should do one season, Alabasta, and 2 weeks later, get on to the next one. Get on to Skypiea and Jaya. I could see them maybe cutting Skypiea and Jaya real short into like 4 episodes. And then also include Water 7 into that, and maybe even really short. It's going to be interesting if they include Long Ring Long Land. If they do, it tells me that we're going to see another Davy Back fight, because it's going to show us the rules. Maybe they'll just cut it real short. One thing I really want to see in the Grand Line, of course, I want to see Smoker and Tashigi, and I hope that they take over the role as the main protagonist Marines, or antagonist Marines, whatever you want to call them. I hope that they get the spotlight now, and Kobe and Hail Nepo can take a back seat, or maybe they team up with them, and it's part of they're on a squad. They're on a fucking Marine squad together. I don't know. But I want to focus more on Kobe. Or not Kobe. Fucking get away from me, Kobe. I want to focus more on Smoker and Tashigi. And I think we'll get that at the first episode of the next season. I think the first episode of the next season, we go to fucking Logetown. Then we go the next, maybe Logetown, and we do Laboon meeting Vivi, or Miss Wednesday, whatever. And then 2, we go to fucking Whiskey Peak. And then the Little Garden. 3, we go see Chopper. 4, we get to Alabasta. Then we have 4 more episodes to develop Alabasta and the entirety of the Baroque works. Mr. 1, Mr. 2, Mr. 4, Miss Christmas, the entire squad, Miss Doublefinger, Miss All Sunday Baby is coming in. Nico Robin. They better find a damn good actress to play Nico Robin. I hear the rumors are going that lady from fucking Halloween might be going for Dr. Kureha, and I'm all for that. I can't wait to see who they get to play Chopper. I do hope, if Chopper ends up being a puppet or CGI, and they have to do a voice actor, this is my hope. We get the English voice actor for the real Chopper from the live-action anime. That would be a fucking fun time. Not only giving her another job to get paid good money, but also it kind of brings these other, we'll be like, that's Chopper, that's the voice, that's who we want. Or something very similar, but it'd be so sick. It's going to be really interesting how they do Chopper. Chopper's going to be a big budget CGI type character for the transformations and whatnot. Unless they do puppets and or outfits, kind of like the realistic outfit they did with Arlong. They could do some shit like that, but they'd have to have like a child play Chopper, and then an adult play his adult, not monster point, but our fighting point, whatever you want to call it. Chopper's going to be fun. I think I'm going to really like this version of Chopper when they get it done. Crocodile, oh, they better find somebody good to play our Bond villain Crocodile. I cannot wait for the Skypiea Season 3, Jaya, fucking Water 7 Season 4. You got to think it's going to take at least until Season 6 before we get anywhere near Impel Down and freaking Marineford. I think it's going to take a minimum of 6 seasons to get through the first half of One Piece to get to the time skip. And that's a minimum of probably 6 to 8 years of filming and editing and acting and set design and all that bullshit. It takes at least a year and a half to put this shit together. Maybe a year if they're going to speed through it, but we don't want to fucking speed through it. We don't want a, half-assed version. We do not. We want a whole-assed version, even if it takes longer, and even if it means recasting after the time skip. You find some badasses that look like older versions of our characters, and you just accept that you have to do this, because these people are real fucking people, and they're going to age, and they're going to be 40 years old by the time they get to Dressrosa or Wano at this point. If it takes, 10, 15 years to get that far, I don't think we're going to go that far. I almost feel like any slobby might be the end. They might get there and be like, cool, we peaked, we're done. They might even go all the way through Marineford and just have some like live action only ending like they did with Pirate Warriors 4 when they had a 1-0 special ending because they didn't know the ending yet. Because I just can't imagine they're going to go through the entire series. Like, I bet everything I have that they're not going to go through the entire series. They just can't. It's impossible. The story's too big. We'll see. I'll eat my own shoe. I mean, I'll drink beer out of my own shoe, something, because I just can't imagine. I'll see you guys in 10, 15 years when that happens. This is more Fanime. What did you guys think of the live action? Again, some of the changes were cool. Didn't like how Buggy ended up on the ship with his decapitated head. I just want to mention that. But I liked a lot of it. I liked 8 out of 10. 80% of this live action I fucking love. 20%, but it was good. It wasn't bad. It was just and it wasn't the One Piece I know and love. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll talk to you later.